Hey, everybody. Welcome to the LinkedIn Live. We're going to get started in just a second here with today's topic. If you haven't seen this already, I wanted to let you know about a post I just put out today. If you're in the IT space or anything related to the IT space, but it was a agency that I just put out of Commerce, a subordinate agency for them. But they released an IT strategic plan for the next 5 years, 22 through 27, I think. And it's a great, I think it's 12 pages in there, and it's got a lot of good information about their goals or objectives. And I put it out on LinkedIn. Their CIO is engaged in the conversation going on. So if this is your space, if Commerce is your agency, you might want to go after and take a look at that. And one other one that I did that was awesome. It was the Army, and the Army put out stuff yesterday. And there's a lot of good information in those posts for those of you who might be in the IT professional services spot. So just go take a look in my profile in the activity, and you'll be able to see these posts, either the ones I put out or the ones I'm engaging. And if you follow them through, it could be a lot of good information to help you understand further into the IT side of the house for Army or for Commerce going into that agency. So, okay, if you don't know me, I'm Neil McDonnell. I am the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I would like to welcome you to my LinkedIn Live. We do this daily as a way to reach out and teach process and procedures to people like you in a way that you will achieve success in the federal market. I've been doing this since 2018 when I sold my last company after spending 20 years as a small business owner. And I focus on one primary mission, which is to teach people like you that government contracting, it's not a secret, it's just a process. And if we know the process from A to Z, for example, and we follow the process, we will achieve success. And so we're going to get rocking and rolling here. I want to make sure looking at the chat. It's a great community of people who are in this LinkedIn Live every day. And so feel free to engage with each other. I think you should be able to find potential teammates in there as you are cyber to cyber, janitorial to janitorial, construction to construction, et cetera. So please engage in there. I won't look at it pretty much until the end to see if I can get some questions and answer any of them. One thing that I'm going to drive forward and talk about today, and I think it's a really important topic, right? And probably why a lot of you are here is how do I have a federal sales pipeline full of winners? And what I mean by winners, obviously in the federal sales side, is that if there's an opportunity in the pipeline, then I'm going to win it, get a contract awarded, and make money, right? That's the whole purpose of sales is to make money, win contracts. And so I want to talk first about a little bit about how I see what a winning pipeline is and what that means to me. And then as I go through, I'm really going to touch on one main point that I want to get across today. And this is you should only have opportunities in your sweet spot in the pipeline. So I'm going to talk about how you can do that, some of the risks that happen and the ways we end up having stuff in there that doesn't belong in there. But overall, I'm going to be focused on that one point throughout today's training is only have ops that are in your sweet spot. And as you go away, I'm going to give you an action, a tangible step that you can take to improve your pipeline today. It's not going to be, hey, do an overhaul of your pipeline, go look at everything in your pipeline. It's going to be one thing I think you can do today, tomorrow at the latest, so that by the end of this week, you've got your pipeline a little bit stronger than it was before you came into this training. So we're going to get rocking and rolling. Gus, I'm assuming you sent me a text that tells me we're good to go. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so let's get rocking and rolling on why you would want a pipeline full of winners, right? One of my favorite quotes is, the biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it took place at all. The biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it took place at all. And I've seen this over and over again with understanding words, hey, what do we mean by a milestone? Or in phrases when we talk about having a pipeline of winners. Of course, we want winners. But what a winner should be is an opportunity that goes into my pipeline in the qualified stage, let's say, and it slowly moves forward through the sales life cycle to the end, and I can predict wins. When you think about who uses a pipeline, it is you, if you're a salesperson, right? You use it to manage what's going on in there, but you also use it to manage your efforts to get your bonus or commission. And so when you look at a pipeline and you look at the activity you're working on, you don't want to be working on everything. I know you don't want to be working on everything. You only want to be working on winners, on opportunities that are going to lead to success for the company, which then leads to personal success of a bonus or commission or whatever. And if you're a small business owner or business owner, you're looking for the team to be able to be driving predictable wins coming out of a pipeline. And you can take that one step further if you're a bigger company and you've got a finance department, right? Not just the owner doing that job too. But if you have a finance department and they're planning out next year's spending or the next few years, do we expand to a different office? Do we get everybody new furniture so that we're finally off folding tables? Any of that kind of stuff, right? Well, they make that plan, those planning decisions based on data, and the data comes from the pipeline. And if the pipeline has winners and losers in there, and I mean dud losers, not hey, we didn't win this opportunity. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. But I mean duds, flat out duds. Well, if finance is looking in there and they think that they can count on that pipeline and that set of numbers to come out the other side, but they can't, then they're going to be making decisions that will go hectic when they finally get to FY 2023 or 24, right? And so we need to give them a reliable pipeline and a reliable expectation of the revenue that's going to be coming into the company by having only winners in that pipeline. When we do, then we also, as people who are responsible for sales, will have personal success that's predictable as well. I talked about this in a previous video, and I'm going to talk about it in a minute on the stages of the pipeline. I just want to back up for a second and talk about them and the value of understanding winners in there and how they go through the pipeline. But before I do, I said the one point I want to stick to all throughout this training today is that I want you to understand winners are winning opportunities are opportunities that are in your sweet spot. So take a second and in the chat, put in what is your sweet spot? What's your core competency for your company? Some of you might have already done it. Like I'm looking at Kevin Richard, Office Design and Furnishing. And by the way, you should be connecting with Jim Barry, who also does that kind of work, or certainly in that space. But what's your core competency? Put it in. I'm looking at Amit where it says we build custom data and AI solutions, right? That sounds like a sweet spot. Sounds very specific there. Put it in and keep going as we go through this training. I'm going to talk to you at the end about was your sweet spot and your core competency as clearly defined as you can make it. So we'll come back to that. So a couple of days ago, earlier this week, could have even been last week. We do so much, but I walked through the stages of the pipeline and the values. And what I really was driving home was that if you have a typical pipeline that has the stages of an opportunity going through that pipeline, capture stages in particular, you have an opportunity that's qualified that would then go to pursue, to bid, to proposal, and then it goes to the customer to win, right? And so when you look at that, at each stage, the percentage of dollars that are in that stage. So if you have 10 opportunities, they're worth $1 million a piece in qualified, then that's $10 million total contract value, right? 10 times 1 million, 10 times 10 opportunities at 1 million a piece. That's $10 million. And what I teach people is that I only count on 1.03% of those dollars to actually end up as revenue dollars, just because of the math that's in there. 1 out of 3 opportunities that are in qualified will go to pursue, et cetera. Watch that video. It's a great video. But the numbers that I use in there are average numbers. 1 out of 3 opportunities will move forward to pursue. 1 out of 2 opportunities will move from pursue to bid, et cetera. But when you play in your sweet spot, you bring that down. 1 out of 2 opportunities would move from qualified to pursue. You get better. And then 1 out of 1 opportunity should be moving forward from pursue and bid, in my opinion. And I know there could be a debate on this, but if you play in your sweet spot, you only go after opportunities that are what you do, then you will see more of your opportunities being able to start and qualified and go all the way to the end of the life cycle into government decision stage. And so the reason I say that is when you improve your ability to have winners in your pipeline, then you improve your ability to have something go through that sales life cycle, through the pipeline, and come out the other end. Or if we're doing vertically, right, go in the top of the funnel and come down the sales funnel and drop out as a proposal that goes to the customer. So one of the things I want you to really drive home is this idea. The first major tip, and really it goes to the whole thing I'm talking about today, is when you look at your pipeline and you're putting opportunities in, only put opportunities in that are in your sweet spot. And I'm going to expand on this here for a few minutes. When I talk about sweet spot, I want to use an example with fruit or apples, right? And I could have done this on a visual, and I think I might do it on a graphic at some point. But what I really mean by a sweet spot is in the middle of a circle, right? A graphic. In the middle is a red apple, right? That's my sweet spot. I sell red, delicious apples. Sweet spot. The circle around that one are apples. So then you see red, delicious. You see green, Granny Smith or whatever. You see the yellow ones. You see the orangey ones. You know, I don't know the names of the apples, but I know there's a whole bunch at the store, right? So I'm seeing a bunch of apples. Those aren't my sweet spot. I'm not selling apples. I sell red, delicious. So the next circle outside the apples is fruit. So now you see apples, oranges, bananas, etc., going around. And imagine that circle, right? I'm not selling fruit. I'm not selling apples. I sell red, delicious apples. And then the last circle out, if you can imagine this, so you got the red, delicious, then you got the apples, then you got the fruit, and now I got food. And so I see vegetables, I see meat, I see bread, etc., cookies, because I like cookies. I see those all around. Those are my core competencies. The red, delicious apples are my core competency. The challenge some of us have is we feel like if all I do is say red, delicious apples are my core competency, I'll miss out on all that apple business. I'll miss out on all that fruit business. I'll miss out on all the food business. But that's the opposite. If you try to go for too many things, you will get nothing and you will have no traction with a customer. But reverse that now and think about if I am the best at red, delicious apples, everybody knows it. Go to Neil. He's got the best red, delicious apples. And when you come to me, I sell you a bag of red, delicious apples because you've heard they're the best. You've brought your money. You're ready to buy from me. I've talked on the internet all about red, delicious apples, how you can use them, biting them whole, just chewing on them. You can cut them up into slices. You can eat them with cheese. You can dip them in peanut butter. All these things you can do with red, delicious on the internet, which you're like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I never thought there was so many things I could do with it. You come and you buy your bag of apples. And I go, wait. As long as you're here, have you tried my Granny Smith apples? Because they're pretty good too. Why don't you get a bag of those and try them? And what I'm trying to get you to understand is the fact that you stay focused will actually allow you to sell more. But when you sit there and try to sell more, no one knows what you're an expert at. And so they don't trust that you're going to give them good apples. Maybe you're not an apple farmer. And imagine if you're going farther and farther away from red, delicious and you're going into fruit or food. The confidence a customer has in you or a teammate has in you that you're the best at red, delicious apples, or in Amit's case where he talked about data, you're the best at data. Don't talk to me about software development. Don't talk to me about cloud, cyber, all this other stuff. Be the best at data. When you get the contract for data and you get in, you go, hey, by the way, I do cloud, I do this, I do that. And as long as you keep it all related, it's fine. But you now are building trust with your customer and they will want to give you more business. They will want you to do more than AI or data with Amit or red apples with me. Hope that made sense. Maybe you throw in and say apples are good if it makes sense in there. One last thing I want to talk to you about is when I say about only add opportunities that are in your sweet spot, I'm going to tell you how you define that or how I do it and how you might consider doing it yourself. First thing to consider though is when I say throwing an opportunity into the pipeline that is in your sweet spot, what I mean is that 60% of that opportunity needs to be 100% your sweet spot. We can do that better than anybody else, or at the very least, as good as everybody else. We can do it as good as the largest, as good as the smalls. And so at least 60%, and you can prime it, is my recommendation, right? If it's less than 60 seconds, then you should be looking for a teaming partner. You can subcontract in your sweet spot as well. So if there's a contract and it's pretty big, but your sweet spot only covers 20% of the task areas, that's okay. But just recognize you're going to be a subcontractor. And so theoretically, you already have teammates that do this other stuff, right? But you never want to prime on something that you're less than 60%, in my opinion. people can throw exceptions in all day long. And this goes into my next bullet about rationalization, but those are good rules to start with. 60% of what's in an opportunity, I should know everything about. I should have past performance around it. Otherwise, if I'm going to sub more than 20%, if it's less than 20%, just stay away from it. I don't have time to really talk to you about it, but just trust me, stay away from opportunities that you don't have 20% fit in. So let's come into watching out for rationalization, because this spins forward this idea that I was talking about with 60% or 20%. Sometimes what we do is we try to rationalize. Hey, Alfonso, thanks for the apples are good. I just noticed that for a second. That gives me a little a bump in my energy. Sometimes we rationalize. I am the master at rationalizing something. If I want to go to a restaurant, I'll rationalize why it's the best thing in the world. My wife will love it, blah, blah, blah. But if she wants to go and I don't want to go, I'll rationalize all the reasons it's probably bad. It's a crappy way to be it's a crappy way to be a husband, and it's a crappy way to be a salesperson, right? I need to not rationalize things. I need to have clear criteria for what a good opportunity is, and stick to that. And if I stick to that, I will have that success I talked about, where I'll have a pipeline that moves more steadily forward, and I'll have opportunities come out the other end that I win. Here's an example of another example of rationalization. I did it a minute ago with data, but imagine if you do cybersecurity work, right? You're rationalizing that you see a cloud opportunity. It's like, well, cyber's in there. We could do that too. And it's not. If you're in the cyberspace, are you really in the cloud space? And especially the smaller you are, you have less capability. If you're SAIC, sure, you can do a lot of this stuff. You have whole divisions that can do this stuff. So understand where your sweet spot is and be careful of the rationalization. An example in cyber itself is, if you're good at defensive cyber, does that naturally make you good at offensive cyber, right? Can you be that person, on behalf of the government going after our enemies or something? No, that's outside your world. You're here. Or if you do risk management framework stuff, does that naturally put you over here and make you good at cross-domain security or whatever, right? You've got to be careful of saying, hey, we do this, and so we naturally can do that. What you end up doing is getting opportunities into your pipeline that are getting farther and farther out of the circle of red delicious apples and into other circles, compared to if I stick with the, let's say, risk management framework, which is part of cybersecurity. If I stick with that, then I go everywhere and I look for just the need for red delicious apples, RMF. Or when I'm talking with teammates, I make it very clear, hey, I'm your RMF company. Come to us when you have that. So be careful of the rationalization. That's something I really just wanted to point out. Okay, so I talked about keeping in your sweet spot and 60% matching your core competency. Well, how do I do that? I wanted to give you a tip on how I do that. And the way I do it is with something called a requirements gap analysis. Everybody probably has a version of this if they're using tools like this. And basically a requirement gap analysis is where I look, it's a spreadsheet, and I look at a performance work statement, the scope or the requirement coming from the government. I look at that and it's got task areas. Let's say it has 10 task areas. And inside each task area are sub-task areas where they expand upon what they're trying to get out of there, right? And so what I do is I go into my spreadsheet, this requirement gap analysis, or RGA. I go in there and I take the primary 10 task areas and I put them in primary rows that I have. Let's just describe it as a gray row. And below that gray row, I have yellow rows that allow me to put the subtasks in. And so I just put them in. And when I do this, I'm not only seeing the task areas, but I'm teaching myself, what is the government saying that this task area means in subtask language? The problem sometimes we might have, you might have it, I've had it in the past, is I'll look at the task areas but only see the high level names, and I'll think I know everything about what they want. And that's, assumptions are bad, right? And so when I put it into a requirement gap analysis and I put in the main task area and then the subtasks that go below it, I'm able to get a much better understanding of what they're trying to say. In this spreadsheet, and I'm not trying to make, there's a whole training I would do on RGAs, but in here, the next thing I do is I give it I match up my past performances. I say, do I have any past performance that matches this subtask area? Not the task area, the subtask area. And so what I'm scoring manually are the subtasks. And so I'm trying to find past performances I have. And based on the past performances and what I know of the work, I then give myself a score based on a criteria, right? But this idea of a subtask, do I have past performance? What do I think my score is on a scale of 1 to 5? Those subtasks then roll up to the main task and give it an automatic score. And those 10 tasks roll up and give me an opportunity score, what I call an RGA score. And the idea of the RGA score is it quickly tells me whether I'm in that 60% mark or above. I want to have a score of 3 or higher, basically, to even consider it as a prime. It's an awesome opportunity when it's 4 or higher. And if it's 3 or below, right? I know I just said 3 or above and 3 and below, but it's 3 and below, I'm cautious, and probably the best thing is to do sub and or abandon it. And one of the things that I talk about in a lot of different tools, and I didn't talk about this earlier, and I think I have enough time here to talk about it, is I just keep looking at my clock, by the way. When I use tools like the requirement gap analysis, when I talk about looking at my pipeline, what I want to recommend to you is trust the data, trust the pipeline. Do not trust yourself, right? You do a good job. I do a good job putting the data in, gathering the information I need, but the tools will give us the truth of whether this opportunity is a winner or a loser, right? The likelihood that a win or lose going forward. I did a video recently that is on this thing called the winning proposal score. And the video was titled Death to the P-Win, Probability of Win. And I was trying to get people to go into this concept of winning proposal score is what you want. There's a set of tasks that you need to do in capture. There's a set of information that you're trying to get about the opportunity. If you can do those tasks and get that information, your score goes up. It's kind of like I'm gamification, the capture process, so that the system is telling me whether this is a good opportunity. The system is telling me whether it's good enough to move forward to the next stage. And so those tools, I want you to trust. And if you have your own tools, then you can do that same thing. You look at your pipeline, you trust it. If you begin to make sure you're only putting opportunities in that are winners, that's 60% and above, then your tools will be able to tell you what's going on. You'll be able to depend on them. Leadership will be able to depend on it. People who are making financial decisions will be able to go forward with it. So as you go forward and you're looking at this stuff and you're thinking about your sweet spot, one of the things, oh, by the way, quick pause, is just tell me, do you use any kind of tool at the moment, right? Any kind of RGA tool, requirement gap analysis? Some of you might be at a stage where you're just looking at an opportunity and you're working it. Others, do you have a much more mature process in place? Let me know what you got. And give me 2 seconds. The little surprise there. Anyways, let me know what you do and whether you have a tool, because I'd be really curious on whether other people are using tools. I'm trying to decide whether I create a handout that, or pass my RGA out to people. I use it with customers, and passing it out though. I'm nervous about doing that because actually it requires a lot more training than what you're just getting today. But I might do that training if I'm seeing a lot of people are not using a tool. So anyways, trust your tools, your pipeline, your RGA, your winning proposal score. And then I want you to remember 3 things from what I'm talking about today. So as you walk away, remember that you want to clarify your sweet spot. You want to stay in your sweet spot. If you're looking to get winners, clarify your sweet spot, stay in your sweet spot, and then trust your pipeline. If you stay in those that sweet spot area and you're moving those opportunities forward, your pipeline will be very reliable, and you're going to be able to count on it for whatever goals you're trying to achieve at the other end. So the one task I would like you to think about and take away from today, besides those things to remember, before the end of the week, so today or tomorrow, right? Clarify your sweet spot. If you haven't narrowed it down to a red delicious apple, if you're still out there in the apples or even the fruit range, think about how big is your company. If you're $1 billion company, maybe that's okay. But if you're smaller, look into the apple range or look into the red delicious range. And so in the next 2 days, make sure you clarify what your sweet spot is, because it will help you sell better. It will help you have a stronger pipeline with winners, and it will help you be able to communicate with people who are on today's training with you and with me, all of us who are out there talking with people in the industry, and they might say, hey, do you know anybody who sells red delicious apples? I got to assume all of you are going to send people back to me for red delicious apples in the government if somebody's looking for that. So I'm going to look really quick to see if there's any questions. Know yourself. Such right. I think this is great. Somebody put in, so basically know yourself. Such a simple idea, yet complicated to achieve for many. And one of the things I was talking with somebody about yesterday is it's hard sometimes for people to not follow, but to do what I say, because what I say is so direct and straightforward. It's a procedural or process step. It is not do this whole complicated thing, right? I'm really trying to teach, if you do one thing the right way and enough of it, you will achieve success. And if you do enough of those, you're creating the building blocks of a successful sale, a successful company. And that's kind of the driver of what we're trying to do. Philip, I don't know if I'll ever get away from a spreadsheet, even though I'm a data guy and a SharePoint guy, et cetera. So great. Looks like there's people out there using the tools. I'm just going to look really quick, see if I see any questions. By the way, if you found value in today's topic, please give it a thumbs up so other people might be able to find the replay and gain value as well from it. Okay, I'm not able to see questions necessarily, and I might miss some, but I guarantee you I will come back and look at all the comments and respond to them. By the way, if I'm owing you a handout, don't worry, I'll be getting to you. It's just a lot of activity. I got my day-to-day job, but I'm very committed to responding to your questions, comments, and getting you handouts if you had asked for them in a previous video, et cetera. So again, I hope you found value. And remember, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. Part of the process is coming to tomorrow's LinkedIn Live session. I'll see you.